Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Welcome everybody. Thank you guys for kind of tuning in today as we are having a webinar on mental health and gymnastics. Miss Erin here is really experienced in, but also a little bit in sports. So we're excited to have you here with us, Erin. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. So to kick things off, I really just want to give everybody a little bit of an idea on just kind of your background, what kind of inspired you to focus on mental health, especially in gymnastics. What kind of brought you to the space?
So I think because I grew up watching gymnastics and my favorite athletes when I was younger, like Shannon Miller and
Yeah,
even a little bit of Mary Lou, I really just fell in love with the sport. So I did a lot of sports as a kid. I really didn't want to choose just one. So
yeah,
I did a lot of different things and obviously fell in love with gymnastics, and that really stuck. I even trained recreationally like into my 40s or right around 40 or so.
yeah.
So
That's great.
yeah, so I just wanted to merge the two things that I love the most, which is gymnastics and mental health.
Yeah.
Also a licensed clinical social worker. So I've worked in mental health for 20 some years. So
Wow.
really just bringing those two things together was an exciting project for me. And I've been, I don't know, working on it for a while, and it's really
Yeah, I
exciting.
like that. When you were an athlete, did you feel like you struggled with mental health just as a gymnast or even in just any other sports that you were in? Is that kind of what triggered it a little bit also, just the importance
Yeah, I
behind it?
mean,
Or
I think that all of our experiences as people, they pile up a little bit, and we
yeah,
we all have our stuff, right?
yeah,
So just having experiences in life and being in sports and being injured or being competitive, um,
yeah,
that kind
100%.
of that goes down a road, and I don't think anyone can come out without some kind of
Yep,
injury,
exactly. Yep,
emotionally or
yep,
physically. So
yeah,
yeah,
I love that.
I
I
struggled a
love
little bit, mental blocks. I hated tumbling backwards. It was scary for me. So yeah.
that is one of the questions somebody has today. So we will kind of touch on that. So we're going to ask, there are a couple questions that a few people did ask. I have them pulled up. We'll do that a little bit, towards the end. So I'll go ahead and just kind of touch on really, just a couple questions that I think everybody would like to know. So we'll kind of start with, of course, in gymnastics and again, other sports as well, but you have different stages of development. So, what are the common mental health, you know, challenges that gymnasts and athletes kind of face? Do you believe that you kind of see the most common?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that there's a certain type of person that is attracted to gymnastics in the first place when they
True.
become more competitive. And they tend to be perfectionists and really super competitive. But young kids in general, I think we probably can all agree, they're really fearless. So when we have a
Yes.
little kid and they're at that mom and me stage or
Yep.
preschool, they're running around, they don't care. If
Yep.
they fall, it's
Exactly.
cool, get back up.
Yep.
But down the road, we start developing a little bit more fear, and that's not a bad thing.
Yep.
Anxiety when you're doing something dangerous is good. That's
Yeah.
should be
Yeah.
there. So
Yes. Yeah.
the problem,
Otherwise, that is a normal. I think sometimes people see that as, sometimes they might jump the gun a little bit and say, "Hey, we have a problem here." They're nervous to do a skill, but it is, you know, a part of learning. It's normal, So I completely agree with you, and I think that's, a big part of learning. Anytime we're learning something new, yeah, you're going to be a little nervous and scared to do something. So yeah, I like that, just focusing on that aspect.
yeah, and I mean, just normalizing that,
Yep.
and Like, that's cool. You know, I would be afraid too, doing something backwards and
Right, exactly.
like that, like it's dangerous, you know, so
Right.
that's normal. It can get a little out of hand when the anxiety is there and there actually isn't any danger. So that's when we know there's a problem. You know, once we've
Yes.
mastered a skill and then we have anxiety, that's when we know we're getting into like a block kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And that was really going to be kind of one of my lead up questions was, trying to kind of separate between normal anxiety, just because of a new skill or, anxiety when it comes to there's no need to be. What are, I guess, common things for club owners, coaches, managers? What are they to look for to know that there could be a mental health, struggle in an athlete of theirs?
So the biggest signs with anyone, and hopefully coaches know their kids. That's where it
Right.
starts, is having that
Yeah.
relationship. But if someone deviates from their baseline, like their normal everyday behavior, and it starts drifting in a different direction, that's where you're going to notice there could be a problem. And it doesn't necessarily mean there's a major problem or it's a mental health issue, but that's what you want to notice first, is deviation from baseline behavior.
Okay.
If it continues and you're noticing kind of an ongoing thing with that, it's really time to have a conversation. It doesn't need to be a serious, you're in trouble conversation. It's just like, hey, what's going on? I've noticed this. And having that open dialogue, I think it's key to involve parents. So if there's a concern that rises to the level of more than just I'm having a bad day, that's when you want to involve the parents as well, because they're a part of this just as much as the athlete.
I love that. And, something that I know a lot of people, I'm sure would actually like to know, because we have competitive athletes. Yes. When we think of big mental blocks, we think competitive athletes, but we also have recreational athletes that still go through, this process of, mental health struggles and stuff like that. So there's a lot of rec coaches that aren't as familiar, communicating with a parent on, really how to, communicate, hey, your athlete is struggling with this. It could be, just some anxiety about a new skill. What do you suggest is the best way to go about communicating with the parent? Do you think it's best to do a one-on-one meeting? Do you think the kid should be involved? Do you think it should just be private with the parents? What are your insights on that?
So I really think it depends on the kid. If this is a kid that is coming up every week and having some kind of an issue that you're concerned about, that's probably time to take it to the next level, involve the parents and the kid, and come up with some kind of solution. Some kids are just wired differently, and they're a funny bunch, and I get it. I had my own struggles. I would get super mad if I couldn't master something, or if I had a skill one week and then I didn't the next. So it didn't necessarily mean that there needed to be like a meeting with the parents or whatever. It was more like I needed to learn how to regulate my own emotions.
Exactly. Yeah.
And coaches can do that without being like trained, master's level clinicians. You can regulate their emotions just by validating them, first of all.
Exactly. I agree.
Having open conversations about emotions is totally fine. It doesn't make you weak.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. No, I think that's good, because I know rec coaches can definitely also, interacting with parents can sometimes be scary, especially if you're a new coach. But I do agree, that those conversations with parents, the parents can help within that process, make it, a little bit easier, just to kind of bridge the gap of being nervous and what to be scared about and stuff like that. So I think that's great. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth mentioning that from the get-go, parents should understand like what the expectations are, and so should the athlete.
Yeah.
So things to look out for, or policies of your gym, whatever the case is, they should know right from the beginning, whether it's rec
Right.
or it
Yes.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Very true.
So,
I agree.
yeah, and they should know how that process works as far as like if there's a problem, then this is how we communicate.
Yep.
And this is when, and just setting boundaries, but also keeping that open. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. Setting expectations, I think, is great. Yeah. Right. Whether it's rec or competitive, when it gets competitive, I think sometimes you could probably, agree that there's more pressure because we have more timelines and stuff like that. And it could probably, when you feel like you're kind of crunched, it all kind of probably adds up, a little bit, probably stirs the pot a little bit more. But okay, great. I love that. So another one is really the meat of what I think I want to get out of this for coaches and stuff is what are some of those big strategies, if you can just kind of bullet point some of the ones that you think really help the most, just for techniques to create a positive environment so that the athletes, hopefully in a preventative measure, we reduce the amount of mental health struggles that we have. So what are some of those techniques that you would really kind of suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that no matter what level, in if you're competitive or if it's rec or if it's like the Excel program, it doesn't matter. It should be fun. Like first and foremost, it should be fun. So
100%.
Fun first, obviously safety first, fun a very close second.
Yeah.
So making sure your environment is a fun place to be. So the kids aren't going kind of dreading, and sometimes it can be awful. Let's be real. Like you go train and it's like, feel like it today.
Yeah.
But having an environment where people want to be is a good place to start. So the other main thing is having honest, open communication, not judging. If a kid says something or they're feeling a certain way, that's fine. It's address it, talk about it. It's not.
The feelings are valid. The nervousness is valid. Yes.
Yeah, it's totally okay. I think setting expectations is also, like I said before, something really important. So if someone comes in and they're having a bad day, what strategies can we use to turn that around? So working with your athletes, and the parents too, like, okay, so we know that some days you struggle. We're going to plan ahead.
Right.
What can we do on those days? So when a day comes that you're struggling, you already have kind of an idea of how you're going to get through it.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that. I 100% agree. And going back to the first thing that you kind of said, in terms of making sure that practice is fun and an enjoyable place to be, I do know I've had plenty of conversations with coaches before just on, how do we make it fun, but also make sure that we are hitting the goals that we have for a team. How do we have fun without sacrificing that? We are going to be a competitive team, and how do we go about doing that?
So you always want to find a middle ground between things. When you're too far one way or the other, it really doesn't. It's not good. If it's too fun and it's just all fun, you're not going to win. You're not going to get anywhere. Finding that balance. Incorporating games and competitions. That really worked for me. I loved playing Stick It. That was my favorite part of gym.
Of course. We all love Stick It. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had to win Stick It. But, it was also building a skill or being able to focus on your landings in Stick It. So trying to combine things that are fun while you're doing the things you need to do to be a better team.
Yes, I like that. I like that.
There's in all sorts of creative things that you can do to incorporate fun or games or competitions into like a training session.
Yeah, I like that. So, now that we've kind of gone over a couple key things that they can do, can you touch on just the importance of like, I I know that you have, and I'm very, very thankful that we've partnered up with you. And we have some of your, courses and a lot of your knowledge in Flip Biz. So I hope, a lot of our coaches take the time to, just go and do some of those mental health courses because they're amazing. But training is, obviously something I'm very passionate about. So what do you believe is the importance of bringing this mental health training, into people's gyms, communicating with staff, rec staff, team staff? I know that's something that, you offer in, Speak of Mental Health, where you communicate with clubs and do some meetings and whatnot with everybody. How important is this to make sure that it's done? And how can we implement it more? What's the best way to implement it?
So, I mean, this day and age, it's super important. Let's be real about like all of the people who are talking about mental health and in gymnastics. And some of the loudest voices are the most successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of pushing this to the forefront. And it's good. It's exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're taking care of your own mental health is also something that is super important. The idea is to develop a human being who is functional and not broken down into adulthood.
Yes,
that's
the
goal of any parent, coach, anything. We want to build our kids up and not destroy them. So it's really about combining, the mental health training and awareness with nurturing, with discipline, with all those things together. And again, like I said before, it can't all be one way or the other.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So definitely it is absolutely imperative, I believe, at this point that we start really taking this seriously. We want kids to go into adulthood fully still together.
Yes. Yeah. In one piece. Yeah. And there's a lot of different ways, that I think, just like you said, this is a very important space that I think more and more we're hearing it from athletes. We're trying to focus on it as owners and coaches and try and be more aware of, the environment that we're creating. So I know that you have courses through Speak of Mental Health. I know that we have some, through Flip Biz. What are some other things that you kind of offer to, really kind of jumpstart a gym and just make sure that they start going in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few things that I offer. I can do consulting with private consulting with the gym.
Okay.
Everyone has maybe a unique problem. Some problems are kind of all over on some level.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of how do I deal with parents? That seems to be across the board. So I offer different courses on how to deal with difficult people. So those are general mini courses that have a specific theme.
And I've taken some of those mini courses and they're great. They're amazing tidbits of information that I think all coaches should take. So we've had conversations too, but those mini courses that you do, I absolutely love them. So those are great. Just want to put that out.
Yeah. So I love to do any kind of consulting or one-on-ones, coaching, coach to coach. I'm also working on a workbook that is like a how-to guide to get through getting yourself to a place where you understand mental health and while making it fun for you too. It shouldn't be something that is like hard or annoying. It should be kind of fun, let's learn, let's be open to learning new things. So that workbook is going to be coming out in probably December. So end of the year.
Okay. That's cool. Okay. And, the workbook I think is great, and offering these tools for different staff. Like I said, I'm really happy that we've been able to offer it to our Flip Biz members. And just really everybody else. That's why we're trying to kind of get the word out a little bit more, because I really do believe in creating a positive atmosphere in the gym. So I think you talked about communication. You talked about setting the expectations. I did see something. I think that you may have advertised somewhere. I don't really remember, but in terms of just kind of if you're in a gym setting and as a coach you experience something in the gym that might not contribute to an athlete's mental health, what do you believe those steps are that a coach should take to try and make sure that that athlete doesn't fall down the rabbit hole of having to come out of a bad mental health situation?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm understanding your question completely, I think you're saying like if we see something that we don't think is good, what should we do?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that's a conversation with the coach, and I truly believe that just like the, USAG they mandate a safety certification course
Yeah.
like they have
Yeah.
forever. I don't know how much it's been revised in the last 20, 30 years, but there should be a mental health component to that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much there is. I don't think it's much. But as a team, your coaching staff, you should be ideally doing things often to learn skills in, figuring out how to address different situations as they come up. So it's really about kind of being proactive and learning the skills. So then
I like that.
When something comes up, then it's an easier conversation to have, and people make mistakes. We're human.
Oh yeah.
We get frustrated. I've had coaches very frustrated with me, and I get it. And so we got to remember, this is a person who,
exactly.
they're just as frustrated, most likely.
Exactly. No, that's exactly kind of what whether it's you see something, you communicate it with maybe your club owner, and communicate with the coach if you feel comfortable doing so, if you have the power to do so. But just lending a hand and making sure that they understand why maybe we have to work in a more positive way. So that's exactly what I was looking for. So with that being said, there's a lot of mental health. You just mentioned a bunch of tools that you offer, and can you just, when it comes to the importance of mental health, can you share some success stories or experience that you've had just while you've been working with mental health, or that you've learned about that has led to just improved outcomes for athletes?
Yeah, I mean, the one example I can think of off the top of my head was when I was coaching years and years ago, before I had a master's degree or was in clinical mental health. And I had a kiddo in my rec program who was very competitive, and she was talented. And mom was really competitive and put a lot of pressure on that kiddo. There were problems throughout. It was just kind of, mom was always in the gym and she was always inserting herself, and the kid was crying. And so we talked about it, and maybe this isn't the right environment. She obviously is competitive. So why don't you take her to a competitive program? They did that. And very short time later, they came back, and it was having a conversation about what this child actually wanted. And what did
that's
she need
huge.
like what did she need from mom? Did she need mom to step back a little bit? So I didn't plan for them to come back. I didn't plan for this to be any kind of, good thing mental health wise. Probably was the furthest thing from my mind, but having that conversation and being able to kind of own stuff as a coach too, because it was frustrating, so it comes back down to that communication, and then being validating. She's competitive. That's great. I love how you're competitive, but how can we make that a helpful competitive, not a counterproductive one? So that is an example. She was much happier when she came back, and mom was much better as well. But it had to go through kind of that messy stuff to get there.
That's great. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think we see a lot of athletes go through that, you know, I think that moment where they're trying to figure out what it is that they enjoy doing, what they want to do. I see so many athletes now, you know, gosh, athletes are starting so much. They have like big, giant social media followings, big, giant social media accounts where they're, showing off their skills and stuff. And, there is a lot of pressure out there, just kind of determining what it is that you believe that you should do, what you really want to do. So I think having those conversations are really important.
Yeah,
I
and
like
just
that.
finding ways to stay grounded in
Yeah.
not looking too far down the road,
Yes, exactly.
staying in this moment,
Exactly.
nothing is forever. So having
Yes.
just those honest conversations and
Yeah.
taking any judgment away and out of it. And that can be hard,
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. No, that's good. Yeah. Um, gosh, I think because it's something that is continuing to come into our space as club owners and coaches and stuff like that, I think my last big thing before I have a couple questions that people wanted me to ask was where do people start? Where do they begin if they want to start focusing on mental health for their athletes within their programs, get it to their coaches? Where do they begin?
so really there's a ton of information out there. So it can begin just by learning something small, look up an
Yes. Yep.
article on anxiety or
Yes. Yes.
depression, or what you can just start noticing the resources that are out there already,
Yep.
and take a little chunk here and there and just educate yourself on what different things mean. You like, again, you don't have to be a clinical social worker in order to have an
Right.
understanding of mental health.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yep.
part of it is being a little bit proactive in getting just a little bit of education, read some articles, talk to some people. There are people out there
Exactly.
that have answers. It's
Yep.
fine to ask, reach out,
Yes.
ask a question.
Yes.
There's no shame in it. And I really do think
No.
that focusing on your own well-being is really where it starts. You're not
Yep.
going to be able to provide a good environment for anyone if you're not okay yourself. So being open
That's
to
a very
having,
big thing. Yeah,
yeah,
you do have to be open to it. You have to be open to that. Yep.
yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think that's a great place to start. Really is, knowledge is power. So just opening yourself up to, maybe looking into a couple different things to just understand. And like you kind of said, there are different ways that you can tell if they come out of their baseline behavior, then there might be an underlying issue there, so just having that understanding of what to look out for and, how one problem can lead to the next. I think yeah, I think that's great advice. All right, let's go through some questions that we got. We have just really, yeah, I mean, everybody goes through it all the time. It's just mental blocks. How do we there's no way to get kids to not have mental blocks. I'm pretty sure you can agree that they're always going to happen, but preventatively, I think someone's saying, hey, when a kid has mental blocks, what do we do? What is the best way to go about it? And they hear different, I guess just resources, suggestions. Hey, do this, do this. What is the best way you believe for a coach to tackle mental blocks with their athlete?
yeah. That is a tough one because all kids, all people are different. So I don't
Yeah,
know specifically what will work for one person, to the next.
yeah,
But what we do know for sure is that they're probably going to happen, especially as they go through the stages of, learning harder things.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's okay. I think one of my tips is, can you teach a skill safely that doesn't actually end up being a perfect skill? So for example, if there's a person afraid of doing a back tuck, If they land hands and knees on a soft mat without doing the tuck, and then you explain to them that that's the worst that can happen. If you go, you're going to land hands and knees and it's perfectly safe.
Yes.
That might be a strategy. Going back to the
so
basics.
You're kind of making like you're making the worst case scenario something that is not scary, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And kind of say, hey, there's no reason to be afraid of this. We just did it. That's it. That's the worst that can happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, obviously that's not going to work for everyone or for a skill that involves.
Yeah, but that's a great tactic, though. That's a great tactic. I like that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is just going all the way back to the beginning, working the basics.
Yes.
Sometimes that is all it takes, but it also takes patience, which is sometimes the harder part for both coach and athlete.
Yeah.
It's
but that has helped me. I think in my experience, that one has always it is the long way, but it's the way that I feel like it provides you with the best longevity afterwards. You just break it down to the basics and kind of work your way back up with comfortability, So yeah, I that one has helped me. I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the most common way to overcome that. I don't recommend forcing kids to go, and do the trip. And I've seen that happen. And kids standing on the end of the beam for 45 minutes. Not moving. I don't see that as productive. But do you
think that could have a negative impact on their mental health while they're learning the skill?
Yeah, I mean,
forcing the skill to happen when they're not ready.
I think so, absolutely. But again, it comes down to that kid. That your kids, you might know what motivates them obviously more than I do. So if you have a kid where in the past they've needed that push and that's helped them, then you might go down a road like that. But that is something that you would have to, you really need to understand like where your kid is at. And
because there's probably a point, for everybody. Like they might like to be pushed, but there probably comes to a point where they're really, really uncomfortable. Do you believe that there's a point where every coach should step back and say, okay, we got to go to this different tactic? When do you believe that it's time for a coach to reevaluate the tactic that they're currently using?
Yeah, I would say when it's obvious that we're not having movement in a direction that is,
okay.
That's when it's time. And I don't know, depending on the skill level, then it's time to really reevaluate the whole thing.
Okay. I like that. Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, we were a little frozen.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that. Well, thank you for the mental block little, section, because I think that a lot of people, when they think mental health, they think mental blocks, because I think that's when they can physically see mental health like right there in front of them. A lot of it probably happens behind the scenes when they get in the car going home, probably mentally when they're about to perform a skill, but people think mental blocks because they see it actually happening there in the gym.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because I think that there's been a lot of misconception of, that gymnast is just being stubborn or they're being whatever. And it really is, it's a mental block. The brain and the body aren't working together like they should. And it is mental health coming out in a physical kind of way. So being able to change how you view your kid and what they're struggling with is really going to help, because you want to be compassionate and help them through that. And at the end of the day, like everyone has the same goal.
Right. Exactly. No, I love that. I think, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Someone asked, what can coaches do? I think we've talked, a lot about that, just being aware, communication, setting the expectations, learning a little bit more. But is there anything else outside of that you think coaches can do? Big
I
things?
think, yeah, just remembering as a coach that when you're being critical, and that's your job to be critical,
Yeah,
but when you're doing that, make sure you're criticizing the action, not the
right.
person. I think with
Mm,
kids, when they're growing up and their brains are developing, it's hard for them to differentiate between you're critiquing me as a person versus what
yes,
I'm
yes.
doing. So
That's big. Yep.
yeah, definitely be aware of that. Like, I'm critiquing your behavior or your technique,
Yes, yes,
not who
yes.
you
Yep,
are. So,
yep. I love that. That's great. Okay, good. I think, let me see. I think that is all the big questions that I have. Do you have anything just off the top of your brain that you want to get out to everybody about mental health and, just the awareness and how, it affects their club and whatnot?
yeah, I mean, I think that if you're a person who thinks that this is not a thing, I really want to get the word out as
Yeah.
loud as I can that
Yes.
this is definitely a thing, and it's only going to help you in the long run if you get the education and start getting some of these techniques and skills with mental health into your programs. It's the only thing that can happen is good. It's not going to lead you in a bad way.
Yes. I love that. Well, thank you. It's always a great conversation with you. So thank you for your, really, really valuable insights just into mental health. And, I really think that when people watch this back, those that are with us today, I think absolutely took a few things from this. Um, and it is really important. So I appreciate you taking the time to, join us today.
Yay, thank you. It was fun.
Yes. I will, make sure that we're going to share this link just so people can learn about it. We're going to throw it up on our FlipBiz website. I'll send it over to Erin. She might want to throw it on Speak of Mental Health website as well. But definitely, please, take some of her courses on FlipBiz, check her website out, learn a little bit about what it is that, she does, what she can offer for you. We love working with you, Erin. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, and we'll chat soon. And I'm sure this won't be the last time we spread some knowledge, with everybody. So I had a great time today, and we'll see everybody at our next webinar that we have.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.